A lord of the jungle. A master of camouflage. A magician wielding sound to devastating effect. Unique, beautiful, and so very deadly. Najarala, what are you?
I'm a snake.
Yes, you are, Najarala, a dirty great big snake. But why are we talking about you?
Hi! Fine then.
No, I promise I'm going somewhere good with this. In fact, we're talking very good. We're talking Najarala in Monster Hunter Rise good, and we're talking that is not just a, ooh, that'd be cool, but almost a genuinely likely thing to happen. Likely enough that I want to give you all of the hidden secrets that make up this saucy snake. But why do I think this then? Why am I thinking Rise Najarala? Well, if you have a look at the Hunter notes in Monster Hunter 4 onwards, this is when Najarala got introduced, when Snake Wyverns got introduced. A quite frankly fantastic classification that makes you think, why wasn't huge monster snakes a thing before? And, well, if you look at Remobra, what we can see is the small but agile flying wyverns that seek out weakened creatures to attack, often seen near elder dragons, considered upon a disaster, whatever. Nobody cares about Remobra, really.
Fuck you!
Except for this bit. The discovery of Najarala led to the classification as snake wyverns. This is important because it means that because snake wyverns are in the game, Remobra had to change. And if we go to the Rise demo and look up Remobra in there, swap a dash of flying wyverns to take out weakened creatures to attack on the senior elder dragons they consider important disaster. Okay, same. But then, originally classified as flying wyverns, after further research they were reclassified as snake wyverns. See the notable difference there? It's no longer mentioning Najarala specifically, just snake wyverns in general. To me then, this implies one of two things. Number one, there is no snake wyverns in Rise, so they're just doing a quick little nod as to, why Remobra is randomly a snake wyvern, if anybody thinks to check. Or it implies two, there is more than just Najarala in Rise, there is multiple new snake wyverns in Rise, so it no longer makes sense to just specifically name Najarala. Now obviously I'm leaning into option 2, and therefore want to tell you all about this beautiful, beautiful creature. Let's do this thing. To say that Najarala is unique is true on multiple levels. Firstly, it is just a very unique monster. I mean, look at it. Secondly, it and its subspecies are the only proper snake wyverns. And yes, that was a little dig at you, Remobra, because nobody likes Remobra. It is one of the most powerful, weakest monsters in the series. And what do I mean? Najarala is technically a tier 1 monster. We're talking Anjanath level. No offense, Anjanath.
That's okay, I understand.
Yet Najarala is longer than something like Safi Jiva. It is taller than even Fatalis rearing at full height. It is absolutely massive. And that makes sense given that snakes tend to be, at least the constricting varieties of which Najarala is, absolutely massive. And they used to be even massiver. Something like the Titanoboa could get to lengths of up to 12 meters, 40 foot. Najarala length, by the way, 50 meters. Oh, and incidentally, imagine the amount of pressure on your body if you were laying underneath 3 Eiffel Towers stacked on top of each other. That's Titanoboa's constricting strength. So imagine what Najarala is working with. Yet for all that, Bulk is a master of camouflage. This is the twisting Snake Wyvern, and they very much do twist through the undergrowth. The dapple colours on them, while bright and beautiful once you've spotted it, also work perfectly to blend them into foliage. They can move near silently despite their size, and strike with such speed and power that the prey doesn't even know what's hit it before it is wrapped and encircled in a constricting, like vice grip, that, after a few moments, well, your hunter will kinda go pop. Indeed, it is said that when a Najarala encircles you, you only have two options: to die swiftly yourself, or to kill the Najarala swiftly in self-defense, for there is no other outcome. And that is a very, very fun reputation for this very fun monster. Now, you might be thinking, okay, you keep saying snake, it's got 4 legs here. What are we talking about? Yeah, technically it does, and while it is still snaky in as many snaky senses as you can imagine, it does come with quite surprisingly powerful limbs that help it plow through the ground and navigate difficult terrain when the slitheriness is not quite enough, very much like a skink in that regard, such as, you know, the one that I have. Say hello, Nix. See, skinks are kind of sausages with legs. They're not as graceful as a snake, though they do move with those serpentine twisty movements, ignoring the fact that they have feet at all, but those feet do come in handy when they need to grip just that little bit more. So I guess you could say Najarala's a skink wyvern, but that really doesn't carry the same kind of ferocity and cool factor as snake. So, going up then to its face, it is adorned with a beak and 2 quite gnarly tusks. They are mostly for display, for aggression, not so much combat, but within this beak is a paralytic gland that produces, well, a paralytic substance, much like a snake bite of venom, but a snake bite of as you are helpless on the ground. It will snap, and it will send you into a spasm of muscles that renders you completely helpless for the aforementioned coiling to begin. Now, this beak is very much bird-like in terms of its function, or at least raptor-like. It's used to rip little strips of flesh off of its victim before swallowing them. It's not one for a big bite. Najarala is not all about teeth. Its mouth very much is there as utility. But utility is where Najarala is king, because as I alluded to, it is a magician of sound, and it can do some quite magical things with sonic waves. See, those frills on its head are not just for show, though they are also for show. The bigger, the brighter, the more likely to attract a mate, and they really give it this sort of Cobra Hood-esque function of, look, I'm much scarier than I actually am, despite actually being a terrifying snake monster. The tail functions the same, again, big, bright, beautiful, but also akin to a rattlesnake. It can, well, rattle, a sign of aggression, a warning sign letting you know its mood. But from that tail, and yes, it's kind of cool that Najarala is just a concoction of snakes. It's like, they were like, we're doing one snake wyvern, let's just pile them all in here, and I'm okay with that. But as I was saying, that tail then can fling out the scales attached to it, the plates, into the ground. They embed easily, effortlessly through rock, dirt, and hunter alike before sticking fast. But they're not done yet. Despite how sturdy they may appear, they're actually quite brittle, almost glass-like. And like the classic trope of shatter a glass from the power of your voice, well, Najarala does something similar. It vibrates its tail and its head crest, creating sonic waves. Waves that so happen to be the required frequency to shatter the scales embedded into the ground, turning them into little sonic bombs. But not just auditory. They don't just give you that, like, type sound, dazing and confusing you. See, Najarala is a master of stun, not just paralyze and constrict. This explosion of sound rocks monster and hunter alike, rattling your internal organs, having your brain pulsing against your skull. It very much is not a pleasant, comfortable experience, but beyond that, the scale itself is shattered, turning it into what is essentially a shrapnel bomb, as little bits of it careen through the air and, well, do the stabby impale. And that is quite the effective weaponry, I would say. But Najarala is not done. No, not at all. See, it also can completely burrow underground. That's where those legs come in handy too, allowing it to pull itself through the earth as it tunnels and tunnels. This allows it to strike, again, completely from nowhere. The ambush predator is Najarala. And also it has a lovely yet very creepy habit of when fog settles over its natural habitat of the primal forest, it will use this now dense, obscuring ground covering to go a-hunting. It's a feeding frenzy time for Najarala, as it completely cloaks their movement, their slithering, and allows them to enter super stealth, as it were, and really nothing has a chance of evading the attack of a Najarala when the environment itself already makes it hard to see the hand in front of your face. That is how the Najarala do. And again, despite being technically a tier 1 monster, it still can hold its own even against something like a Tigrex. Even something like a Gravios gives it a wide berth, because although it's more powerful, it's just not worth the monumental effort it would take to fight off a Najarala. Their size really is a potent deterrent to other monsters that would try and take its territory. Then, all that is left is to talk its subspecies, Tidal Najarala, adapted for the ice and the cold and the water. It's just fascinating, colourful and beautiful still. The purples, the blues, the yellows, it really is quite the sight to behold. This water snake wyvern then, instead of the more traditional sound-based weaponry of the normal Najarala, it will actually use the scales that embeds into the ground as a series of, you could imagine, mirrors. And it fires water blobs that you could imagine as lasers, and they bounce between the mirrors. The water globs bounce between the scales, creating this like grid network of bouncing high-pressured water that can absolutely punch holes in anything that it hits. It is quite, again, a magical, effective bit of weaponry that is so very unique to this so very unique monster. Other than that, they are very similar. They can still do the sound and all of that good stuff. They still have the same physical attacks and properties, but really it's all about that bouncing water coolness. So, Rise then, Najarala. To me, the main draw here is you have something that likes to rear up on to its legs to reach quite the height as it coils up its body. And again, the legs are what's let it actually rear up like this and have this overview of the battlefield. But this thing is tall, very tall. In fact, tall enough that if you do the straight up Wirebug from the ground, you won't be higher than the monster. You'll kind of just reach its head height, which is both good for you and for it. On your hand, you can give it some nice head hits fairly easily by just leaping up there and slapping, but at the same time, you're also putting yourself right in front of its paralytic beak. So I would love the idea of Najarala being able to use its agileness, its grabbiness, its ambushness to literally snap hunters out the air. Maybe do a quick whip jab and paralyze you with a little bite while you are wirebugging around. Also, the idea of it bursting out the ground and coiling around someone who is mid-flight would be absolutely fantastic. Also, we have the obvious main signature attack of the Najarala, where they will coil around you and spin and spin and slide, and you have to either flinch it with damage or find the tiny moment that you can escape through the tiny gap between the tail and the head. But in Rise, suddenly we have a third option, Wirebug jump over the body, and that's really fun. As we saw with Mizutsune, giving them these extra agile slidey attacks, what could you do with a snake that is already super agile and slidey? You could have some awesome Wirebug dodging opportunities as its body comes careening at you. I really love the idea of that. And Wyvern riding Najarala would of course be fantastic, being able to blast out the sound waves and stun enemy monsters. Though in any case, that is my quick little thoughts on it, and my look at Najarala and how it does what it so masterfully does. What do you guys think? Are you a fan of the Snake Wyvern? How much would you like it to come to Rise? I think Rise truly is shaping up to be the monster hunter of diversity, and how can you have that without the snakes? Hopefully plural when all is said and done. For now, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more. Please consider supporting the channel on Patreon down below. But until next time, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.